Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Franklin Board of Education meeting for December 3rd, 2025. The meeting has been properly posted. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Sprague?
Here.
Mrs. Sapersky?
Here.
Dr. Khan?
Here.
Mrs. Witkowski?
Here.
Mrs. Yank?
Here.
I'm present, and Mrs. Larson was she excused?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, and we have several students from Pleasant View here, Eleanor, Zora, Cole, and Zach, and they will help us lead the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Witkowski, seconded by Mrs. Yank. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Tonight, we're excited to highlight the great work happening at Pleasant View, and it's my pleasure to introduce someone whose leadership has been central to that progress, Principal Ashley Imperiali. Under Ashley's guidance, Pleasant View has embraced meaningful shifts in teaching and learning, including the transition from MAPS to AIM testing, which is already giving staff clearer, more actionable information to support student growth. She and her team have used that data thoughtfully to strengthen instruction and to keep every student on path toward success. We're also seeing the results of her focus on student belonging and engagement. The school's engagement scores have continued to climb, reflecting the intentional work happening in classrooms and family partnerships and through support systems across the building. A couple weeks ago, I traveled the halls of Pleasant View with Ms. Imperiali, and we offered the staff a boost with a caffeine cart. A small gesture of appreciation the morning after parent-teacher conferences. On that walk, I was struck by how cohesive the school felt. Classrooms were calm, productive, and joyful. Staff were clearly aligned and supportive of one another, and students were deeply engaged in meaningful learning. It was a wonderful snapshot of the culture Ashley and her team have built. Please join me in welcoming Principal Ashley Imperiali, who will share more about the incredible learning and leadership taking place at Pleasant View Elementary and students and staff. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you for that very nice introduction. I think first off, I'll just let everyone at the table introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Cole.
Hi, I'm Zach.
Hi, I'm Eleanor.
Hi, I'm Zora.
Hi, I'm Carly Gordy. I'm the instructional coach.
Molly Mitchell, third grade teacher.
So we have a group of third graders up here. And if you want to switch to the next slide, thanks. The picture you actually see up there, I'm going to kind of start a little bit backwards. Normally we talk about some data and what's driving some sort of action step. But that picture is actually of me last year in Mrs. Mitchell's class, so not with the current third graders up here, but last year's a group. And if you would zoom in, the picture to the right is actually something that, the reason I took the picture, I happened to be subbing in her room that day. We must have been short subs or whatnot. And one of my favorite things when we start a day, if I'm subbing in a room, is I usually ask them, do you want to do community circle the way you always do it? And teach me the way your classroom teacher does it, or do you want to do it my way? And it was near the end of the year, and they were like, whoa, no, we're doing it the way we always do it. Right? The third graders could run it. But we were a little rushed because they had a special right away to start the morning. But they were like, you didn't read the password. And I was like, the password? Right, great. What's the password? And it kind of led me to learn that Mrs. Mitchell all year had been having a word of the day in her classroom. And they would talk about it, had a picture. Here it is right here. And they would use it then that was the word to go to the bathroom, to whatever it might be. There was a variety of ways they used it, but that word was a focus for the day in a lot of just intentional purposes. And so the kids went on for the day, whatever, but that kind of just stuck with me all summer. So then when you kind of go to the next slide, we're at our sit retreat with our building leadership team, and we're looking through data. And as Mr. Sprague said, it's kind of nice once you've been in one place for a while because you have your systems down, you kind of have consistency with your staff, So you can get a little nitpicky on what you're looking for to really improve. And I think a couple things to highlight just are, like, we've, in the last couple years, have really reversed and made some great growth in our overall reading scores. But when you dig back, like, deeper into, like, what is a reading score all comprised of, and especially now that we have AIMS, which kind of really lets you see some of those subscores in a more detailed manner. And what I mean is, with MAP, kids would take 40 questions, and it was just a 40-question test, and then you kind of get a MAP score for reading, and then you also kind of have a score for vocab and other things, but you didn't see what questions were kind of correlating to give you that score, which with AIMS, in the lower grades, like your knee to knee, like this is the vocab test, there's 20 questions, you're like seeing exactly how it goes and have some just better real-time information. Same thing with the older kids, like there's an actual vocab test they're taking, so you know kind of what it looks like and where it's going. So to us, it was quite eye-opening that, hey, we're making all this progress overall in reading, but when you look at some of these subscores, like clearly vocab is maybe that area that needs some improvement. And then kind of the dig deeper, I think closing gaps is always kind of what we talk about, a service group and what group we want to focus on that needs, that we need more growth in. And for us, like, we have a rapidly growing number of students in our building that English is not their first language. So obviously vocab is going to be more challenging when you're learning a new language. So to us, it was a no-brainer that we had to focus on vocab. So I always think about in a building, when you take data on its own, it's one thing. When you have an experience or like something that feels good in a classroom on its own, that's one thing. But how do you marry the two to kind of create some sort of system or sustainable thing that creates memories that, like, kids, 5 years from now, what do you remember in elementary school? Something exciting. So if you kind of move on, that's where we'll talk about what did we do with that data and this small little fun thing that I discovered in Mrs. Mitchell's room.
Yeah, so our school and our teachers have been growing over the past 3 years in their understanding of the science of reading, and through coaching and their own professional learning, we have been reading a variety of texts, but the two texts that have given us some really great information are Shifting the Balance. And through coaching, I was reading Shifting the Balance grades 3 through 5, and there was a quote from it that stuck to me and the team so strongly, and it was 70% of reading comprehension past 4th grade is vocabulary based. And when me and that team were having that conversation, they're like, what's the one thing we sometimes skip in our lessons to cut for time? Vocabulary, because we make an assumption that our students know some of these words, and we're really doing a disservice to their reading. Then going up to that simple view of reading right there, this is a really powerful visual about how important words and language comprehension are. So you can see that's multiplication. So if any of those are 0, the reading comprehension is 0. So it's super important that we're putting those together. So when we take that learning that our staff's been doing and then we look at our specific data at PV, so last year in fall for our kindergarten through 5th grade, we had a slight growth in our vocabulary use on MAP from that 56th to 58th, not the growth that we would want to see. We really wanted to make that higher, knowing how important that 70% of reading comprehension past 4th grade is. And then as Ms. Imperiali shared, that growing service group of our ELL learners grew from 32 to, in fall they're at 32, and in the spring they're at 29.6%. So all of that data, along with our professional learning, helped us pick that focus on vocabulary, and it was a very unanimous focus. And then continuing on, our goals that we wanted to create, and we did this through our SIT team, was really having activities that incorporated vocabulary throughout our classrooms for our students, staff, and families so they could all be connected. So we started implementing the word of the day, and you will get to see Webster the wordworm shortly. That is done through the announcements with Miss Imperiali. We have a vocabulary Foursquare, which Miss I can show you. These are hanging around our building. We have them in multiple locations outside of specials, outside our lunchroom, and in the library. We have activities that were created by our SIT team that are vocabulary based that are there, and we load them each trimester so they're different. So any teacher or any person that's waiting can use those crucial 2 minutes in between specials to work on some vocabulary. And then we also created a vocabulary instructional menu that was shared with staff. And I'm going to hand it over to Cole, who's going to share more.
For this year and on, we're going to be having a word of the day. Every day on the announcements, we get a new word. And every month, they make a new book with at least the word in it.
So Cole here has the book. We have like a Merriam-Webster, they have a word of the day book for elementary students that comes with a picture, definition, sentence. And so we do one word a day on the announcements. And then there is a story for each month that uses all of those words of the day that make kind of a silly story that captures kids' attention and whatnot.
Here's Zora and Eleanor.
Every day in the art room, Miss Schober, the art teacher, has a different sentence, and it always uses the word of the day, but always involves art.
And Webster the word worm. Just do whatever you want. Webster the word worm has a word that gets added every single day. And every time that it gets closer to the end of Webster, Webster grows.
Now we have a video to introduce you to Webster. Now Zach will tell you how we all
celebrate Webster.
This is how we interact with Webster the wordworm. 4K took a field trip to look at Webster. 5K added pictures to the words. First grade copped the word sounds. Second grade identified the part of speech. Third grade read a sentence using the word. Fourth grade labeled the third graders' sentences. Fifth grade added synonyms and antonyms for each word. As of today, we've had 62 words.
And then this isn't really part of our presentation, but to kind of tie it all in a nice like bow for everyone, we always have a third goal on our school improvement plans around engagement. And so that little picture where you see the panther heads and the blue kind of banners there, part of our student engagement goal this year is the panther heads kind of celebrate the students. They got to decorate it and make it kind of about who they are with their name on it. And then they each have a banner, think of like a Letterman's jacket back maybe when you were in high school. And as a building, we work towards goals and they earn stickers or badges for engaging with things. So whether it's a building attendance goal, maybe you're the Panther of the month. But in this case, after each classroom did their interaction with the first 25 words of Webster, they got that worm badge right there that you see kind of crawling. So the goal is we kind of let him grow by about 25 words, and then we continue to kind of refine what the action step is for each grade to practice some sort of word work with the words that are there.
So on the screen right now, you can see our PV vocabulary foursquare that is on there. And so right now we have eliminated, I'm thinking of a word, and then the picture that you can hold up that we change out that, again, we can use those in those passing times or any staff member can use it. And then as I spoke previously, this is our vocabulary menu, which we created as a SIT team and has different menu items that teachers were given to interact with. And Mrs. Mitchell is going to demonstrate a couple for you right now.
Ready, guys? 100%. All right, so something we do in the classroom when we're working on a new word, particularly our academic vocabulary words, which are a set of like 6 words or so that repeat throughout a unit, and we keep using them in new and different ways, is we play sort of a Frayer model game. So I picked a word from our academic vocabulary list, prefer, and then our job is to look at it in 4 different ways. We talk about what we think it might mean, and then we're looking for synonyms, antonyms, different word forms of that word that we might recognize and see, and then some examples we can come up with. So first we have to say, what do we think prefer means?
I think it means that you like.
You would rather do this, okay? What do you think it means?
To like more than the other thing.
To like one thing more than another thing. Okay, good. Yep, Zora's saying she thinks that too. Her brain is saying the same thing. All right, so do we have any synonyms for prefer? Yeah.
Like better.
Okay. Anybody out there? Eleanor, what do you have?
Better.
Better. Okay, so very similar to Zora's there. What do you got? Rather. Ooh, that's a good one.
Rather do that than the other thing.
Come up with something other than rather.
Instead of.
Instead of? Okay. What about antonyms? Something that means the opposite. What do you think? You don't prefer it, you. You say don't prefer, right? No, that's not gonna work. Okay, Zora, help her out.
That you. You like to eat both the same.
You like it the same? Maybe we can ask one of them for help too. Unpreferable? That's like a made-up word that you came up with.
I like it.
Something and a prefix in there? Nice. Zach, do you have any antonyms? Things that mean opposite of prefer? No? What are you thinking?
Alone.
Sure. Alike? That'll work. Can you pick somebody in the board to help us with an antonym? Zach?
Dislike?
No. You don't. You always hate to say wouldn't. Why don't you pick someone else?
Boy,
Spray.
dislike is almost a perfect antonym.
Copier.
All right, well, let's
Ooh,
move on to
avoid.
some
I
other
like
things.
that.
We might think of a few things and we can circle back. What about word forms? What are some other ways we use prefer, Zora?
Preferable.
Yes, there you go. Preferable. Awesome. Eleanor.
Preferring.
Preferring. Yes.
Preferred.
Oh, nice. Okay, what does that mean when we put the ED at the end? Did it happen today, tomorrow, or yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yes. All right. You have one? Prefers. Yep, absolutely. That works too.
Oh, I got another.
If I were gonna say, toys or video games? You might prefer those, okay? What do you got?
I would rather have chocolate than vanilla.
Flavors.
I would prefer chocolate than vanilla.
Right, flavors.
I prefer snacks over dinner.
You have preferences for food? Okay, good. What about you, Zora?
I prefer writing instead of drawing.
Okay.
Okay. So, like, activity choice? Yeah. Great. Okay, so now we've decided that prefer is similar to saying instead of, or saying better, or saying that you like something, or that you would rather. And it's definitely not saying that you dislike something, or that something's the same, or that things are alike. Yeah. We could say preferable, preferred, preferring, prefers, preference, and we might use those things or any of those prefer words when we're talking about like activities or food or flavors or things we like to do or toys. Do you think we've got a good handle on prefer? Did it match our definition that we thought we had in the beginning?
Yes.
That is an example of the Freyer model
I
for
still
a word.
can't think of it.
Sometimes we come back and we add more later.
I still can't think of another.
It's okay.
If you think of one later, you can add that.
And so I think one other thing, like what's next, my favorite part about any of our action steps is we try to think about what is sustainable and how do we just kind of keep recycling it, but keeping it engaging. So these 4 students don't know it yet, but when we come back in January, kind of Webster, we keep doing the word of the day, right? Keep adding it in our announcements, but we just kind of refine our action step of what that looks like. So we won't have them repeat the same interactions that they did the first time through the next set of words. But rather they're going to work with their buddy classroom. So the older, like each classroom has a buddy classroom, and we're going to give them each like 5 to 6 of the words in the next set. And they're going to end up actually writing like a cartoon frame, like graphic novel to add to those 5 with their buddy. So kind of upping maybe a little more critical thinking, a little more, right? As the year goes on, we can kind of keep adding that engagement level. To kind of keep it fresh and kind of keep it in the forefront of their mind. But it's been fun because it's kind of gone through the front office, down 3rd grade hallway, and now Webster's going to start going down the staircase to the bottom of the building. So just kind of cool how it'll wrap itself around the building and keep it alive. So that's what we have for you tonight.
Thank you.
Wow,
Great job.
impressive, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, Linda?
So how do you pick the words? I'm just curious.
So the words are actually right from, so it's an elementary, like, just think like Webster's dictionary, but it's for elementary kids.
Okay, so they've already,
They've been picked for us, yep. So you just kind of open up, it tells you January 14th, exactly what word. And that's what's fun is we put it in our staff bulletin. So like, for example, the art teacher choosing to use that in her classroom now with like an art-based sentence for the word of the day. So just kind of bringing it alive in all settings.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate
Good
it.
job.
We have some pictures, goodies. Anybody else want to get?
There's so many of them, I think I'll sit this one out.
Mike School.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think we have some treats for you guys too.
What?
Somebody said they like snacks better than dinner. Maybe you're already ate dinner. Well, maybe you can have snacks.
Good use of your food.
It's the same page. Well, fair enough.
All right, we gotta scooch over. Can we get a little bit in front? Stay right in front. Okay.
Oh, we kind of off the edge.
Good job.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Of course they do.
I'm like, yeah, you do.
Bravo. Emily, you have a treat? Mike's on it. Mike's on it. Yep.
I guess I'm in with you.
No, it's good.
right, thanks, PV.
Thank
See you later.
Thank you.
All right, we'll switch to item 5, and Friends of Franklin recognition for Mike Falk. I was talking with Mike before the meeting started, and we were talking about his employee who started when she was 14 and is now his business partner 15 to 20 years later. So, and a Franklin graduate. So, what an add to the community. What a help to the community. I know when I was at Countrydale at the PTO, Mike would always be there with pizzas for anything we did, anything, and so he does that across all the schools. So, Vicki, please.
You said a lot of
You're stealing her thunder.
No, but on behalf of the Franklin Educational Foundation, come on up.
All right,
It is my pleasure to recognize Crossroads 2 Pizza and Subs, basically for your outstanding commitment to our students, school, and community. For years, you have been more than a local business. You've been a true partner in shaping the Franklin experience. You have hired and mentored so many students that I even know, and I know I don't know even half of them, and the stories that they've told me and how much they love. I think I've had 2 interns in the foundation who worked for you.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, you've had quite an expanse in terms of a reach. But you've also fed thousands
Yes.
of students and teachers, sometimes for free, which we appreciate for the 90 volunteers and students that we had at the last fashion show that we had. That was a wonderful treat because they had been there all day, so that was amazing.
Oh, good.
And just even your patience during the glow run, and you were all the craziness that we encountered in terms of getting you over there for the glow run. And when I said, we just discovered that we have 700 people coming, and can we do this? And you're like, no problem. Great, we can be 700 people. So really figured it out. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the community. And I'd like to present you with this plaque. Hopefully you'll display it proudly at the store.
Absolutely,
And thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. I wouldn't be here without all those kids. There's some future ones to be. I love it.
There you go. I know. Would you mind taking a picture for us?
Sure, absolutely. Much appreciated.
Oh,
Thank you on
Oh,
behalf
we
of the
appreciate
staff
it.
and
Thank you.
myself.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
Full
you.
board, you guys going up? Sure.
Yes, thank
So
you.
many times.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, now they're moving.
That's right, yes.
Hold your breath.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you. Yeah, much appreciated. Appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep up the great work.
You too.
Thank you. Appreciate the support.
Have a good night.
Presenting, I love it.
You had a really happy look.
Yeah, like genuinely, like,
Yeah.
those are cool. People.
That's what I was saying. I prefer nice people. That would have been my example.
Right. Thanks, Vicki. Bye.
All right, we'll move on to community comment. I see nobody signed up. Does anybody care to comment this evening? All right,
May I? I wasn't going to, but since the room cleared.
please.
I'm Walker. I live at 7421 South North Cape Road. I'm mom to 2 Countrydale kids who love their teachers so much. They're home with babysitter tonight. I don't normally come, I'll be fast. I don't normally come to board meetings, but I want to start coming. And so I would ask for newbies like me and maybe others in the room, if there's acronyms that need to be spelled out or 10 seconds of context you can give to any of the agenda items. It's super appreciated for me and some folks that I share information back to. So thank you all. That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
All right, thank you. We will move on to the consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mrs. Sapersky, seconded by Mrs. Yank. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. School board calendar, the Cirque building ribbon cutting ceremony will be tomorrow, Thursday, December 4th at 10 a.m. Behind us. Board Policy Committee meeting Tuesday, December 16th, 2025 at the ECC at 1 p.m. And regular Board of Education meeting Wednesday, January 14th, 2026 at 6, and also February 4th, 2026 at 6, both at the ECC. District Administrator update, Dr. Bennon, please.
All right, good evening. As Mr. Sprague talked about, we have the ribbon cutting for the Community Education and Recreation Center tomorrow at 10 a.m. So I'm hopeful the board's able to make it, and we have a lot of community that's excited. So I think we might have a nice showing. So we're looking forward to that. The building looks beautiful. They were prepping last-minute items today, getting it cleaned up and ready to go. So thank you to Andy Cromie and Andy Daniels, who I know have been over there to do the final walkthroughs and approvals to get everything going. Furniture is still coming, so we won't have that tomorrow, but we think that's exciting because we can first see the space, and then we can see the furniture on our second visit, and that makes it great. So we'll be inside for the ribbon cutting in what we call the community room, for the opening, I should say. We'll actually go outside for the ribbon cutting aspects. We won't be out in the cold too long. And then we're going to come back in and we're going to have a second ribbon cutting for Diverse Grounds. So Diverse Grounds is our 18 to 21-year-old transition program, has been running a coffee shop for the last school year. They started it in our kitchen back here. And they're going to have a more permanent space at the Community Education Recreation Center. So we're looking forward to that. We love our partnership, and I'll say this tomorrow, but we can't say it enough, with Anodyne Coffee and Mason, who comes through and, like, in his heart purely loves supporting and working with our students in the school. They've donated a $1,600 new coffee machine that does all the things to increase the capacity of what they can do in their new space. And Grace Barr does a wonderful job with her students. Her students have grown so much. Obviously, we get pretty emotional and excited about it, but she's made this connection and continues to grow it. And so what's been 2 hours at our building, she's hoping to be able to increase to more than 1 day a week, I should say. She's hoping to increase to more days during the week and involve more students. So we're going to do a second ribbon cutting when we come inside because we think that's another opportunity to cut a ribbon. Education Foundation has successfully shifted into that building also. So we find it really to be a nice place for all of our community partnership aspects. When we talk about that transition program, we were working on making connections into the community. It's really beautiful to see how it's coming together. On another note, our Proactive MD team has been on site. So this is the team that helps with setting up the space, the initial implementation and things. So they've been in our wellness clinic. They were on site first Tuesday, I believe. They're here through Friday. They are the most upbeat, energetic group. I'm really reinvigorated at us making a good choice moving forward with them. So we are doing all of that setup. Our patient advocate has been hired. Our clinician has an anticipated start date of January 5th, so things running on target with our open timeline. On January 19th, we are going to do tours for all of our educators that are at Forest Park for our professional development day, set up a 15-minute time to be able to walk through, see the wellness center, see the building if they haven't yet, and just know where it is, because we feel like sometimes the angst is knowing what door to go in and what does it look like, and try to take that away. And we'll have to set up additional times for staff that's not in that day to be able to get over and do a quick tour. You've been in it. It doesn't take long to tour, but it's really building like, this is where it is. It's a pretty confidential space. It's separate, all of that. And then on that day at 11:30, and I'll send more information, we plan to do a ribbon cutting for the wellness clinic and have some of our team there, and Proactive team will be on, and our student who did the artwork, we're hoping he'll be able to make it, but we're working on those details right now. So a lot of exciting things, and I think ribbon cuttings and celebrations, you can never do too many of them, so we've incorporated 3 just within what's going on in that building. A couple other upcoming things in district. Sabre Center is hosting the Christmas with the Choristers, 2 productions on December 12th and 13th at 7:30. So those tickets are available online. And then also we are hosting the high school and middle school music events through the month of December. So the 8th and the 9th, the 11th, the 15th, the 17th, if you need musical adventures, there's choir, there's band, there's orchestra. a lot of wonderful opportunities. And in addition, on December 17th, our jazz band travels around to all of the elementary schools, kind of introducing music and that role of it to all of our students. So a lot of fun festivity with music taking place up until our break. Winter break starts Monday the 22nd, or kids would tell you, you know, at the end of the day on Friday the 19th through Friday, January 2nd. So, thank you. Any questions, let me know.
Thank you very much. We will move on to board liaison reports. Anyone? Linda, please.
Yes, I did have the opportunity to volunteer at the book fair, which is also the same night as parent-teacher conferences. This is at Robinwood, and it was a wonderful, book fairs, people still read books. And I discovered it was my neighborhood school, because I know it had moved around, so I got to see my neighbors and their kids there. So it was a very nice event, and a wonderful parents and kids running around everywhere. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Obviously, I went over to Pleasant View, but that's been reported on. So we will move on to school and community engagement reports. Mary, please.
So mine's a little long. I apologize in advance. An egregious oversight at the last meeting. I went to the craft fair, the Cinnamon and Cider Craft Fair, and I don't think I mentioned that, but it was great and fun, and as always. But I also went to see I'm sure a lot of people did, as well as the jazz band show the other day. But I went to the last listening session with Leo and Janine, and I have to say in particular, one of the moms there said she went to, and it's a listening session for parents of special needs kids. And one of the moms said she went to a conference in Wisconsin Dells. And she said that every small group that she went to, when she said she was from Franklin, people were like, oh my gosh, they have such a great program. Oh my gosh, they have such, great opportunities for kids. She said it was crazy, like every small group she went to, and said she was from Franklin. People just were very effusive in their acknowledgement of Franklin, and our great programming for special needs kids. So I just had to give that a shout out because it was very heartwarming. What else? I went to one other thing and I can't remember what it was. But anyway, I'll think of it and you can come back to me. But it was another great thing that somebody
Angie,
said.
please.
I'm very selfishly going to announce that I plan to have some community engagement this evening over for Family and Friends Night with the dance team. I told my daughter I'd be a little late, but if we're still going at 8 o'clock, I hope you'll all indulge me to excuse myself.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Please. Anyone else? All right, thank you, everyone. We'll move on to reports, presentations, and other board business. Coherence plan, mid-year
Mary,
report.
remember.
Oh, please, Mary, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I went to Forest Park Middle School's spelling bee.
Oh, Mary.
And because I love me some spelling. This was great. And keep your eye on sixth graders. So in January, I think we have the district one here. But I just have to say, I felt kind of bad because one of the kids, he got the word neon. So he gets up there and neon, N-E-O-N, neon. Next kid gets up there, your word is archipelago. And I was like, I just felt bad because, he probably was lulled into a sense of
The kid get it right.
complacency. And then I came back later that day and went to 2 art classes with Mr. Korb. And some of the kids had made these claymation movies. So they're showing the movies tomorrow, which I don't know if I can go, but they're showing the full movies tomorrow at about 2:45 at the middle school. These kids made literal claymation entire movies. And they were producers and directors, and they have little, screen of what they all did. So, I spent the day at Forest Park, and it was great. And these kids are fabulous and so engaging. I mean, these kids are like talking to me, an adult, and like answering my questions, and these art students were just great. So that was my day.
Thank you.
Mary, I think you receive what you give.
All right, we'll move on to coherence plan, mid-year report and assessment. Dr. Mo, please.
Thank you, everybody. This is the copy of the document that was in board docs, so I just want to go through and highlight a couple things and then answer questions if that's okay. So, first page, You've seen this in June. This was our most recent score in those strategic priority areas. But the new thing that I wanted to make sure you had a chance to click on is since we last met in June, we have taken what we call the metrics or the numbers or the reports or the how are we doing, and that is public on our website. So that link will take you to that. That is something we've actually gotten a lot of positive attention for in the Qualtrics world. So that's using Qualtrics to create that. But I think it was a missing piece for us. We always reported at the board, but that was something that you couldn't go to the website and see, here's how we're doing. So if you have a chance to click on here and click through, you can click on all of these. Anything that's underlined is a link. So I think this must be staff engagement that I clicked on. So you can click through and, I'm sorry, it's gonna be slow, and click on any of the data that you see in here. It includes nearly everything except things that, and I'm trying to think, there's a couple of dashboards we didn't include because it was a small number of students, or there was a demographic piece where if somebody was savvy enough, they might be able to figure out who a certain group of kids is, but very few. So I wanted to make sure if you have a chance to look at that and you have questions, or if you ever want Mark or myself to take you through, it's not different data that's being shared here. It's just that it's kind of stripped down in a more publicly accessible way. Did you have a question now?
Well, where is it exactly on the website? I got there through the link, but how do I know
So
where?
if you go to the district information, I think it's right on the front page there. I can look
Coherence
when I'm
Plan's
not
under the
checked
board
it.
tab too, so I think it might be under
Yeah.
there also.
You could also just search if you're ever at a website, Linda, and looking, just put coherence plan in there's a link there. There's a link to the actual plan, and then there's a link to the dashboard. I can show you when we're done. Was that your only question about that?
All right, that was a quick question. So, and then also, I think I have clicked through it, so it does, I think you can kind of see that it looks like it is, you can drill down to actual data, right? That's how it looks, but you can't get to the student data, you just get to.
You cannot get to the student data.
But it's
Yeah.
tied all the way to there.
Yep, so now it's loading. So this is about as you would never be able to click on this and see how third graders at Pleasant View answered specifically.
I see a little phone or that little thing there, and I want to click on it and see what's behind it, but I can't change that, right?
No.
Okay.
What are you wanting to
The
click on?
filter, the filter button.
No.
No.
This filter says that it's on because this is the spring 25. This is winter 24, 25. So the filter's on because it's telling you that square is not all the data. That's a certain point in time. So that's why you see the little, if that's what you're asking, the little filter. And if you hover, so I just took my cursor and hovered, and it can tell you what that square is. Good?
Good.
So we're trying, that's new, we just did that in December, or excuse me, November, but now, so we put in the principal newsletter, we're trying to get people to go there, but that is brand new. So there is nothing on there that anybody anywhere can't click on and see, so it was important to us that we added that. So I just wanna make sure. And if Linda or anybody else wants to go through or have Mark click or have me tell you what a certain piece of data is or connect it, please do, because then you guys know, and if someone else has that same question, you can go through. So remember,
Not to interrupt,
Oh.
Dr. Mo, but we had I had an email the other day from another director of like teaching and learning in a different district in the greater Milwaukee area. And we had talked and they had asked about like, what's your strategic plan and how do you work all that through some interview questions. But then after that, she went and explored the website, found this space, went through the data, and was really impressed with how outward facing it is and the work we're doing. And was using some of this to model areas that they needed to grow in their system. So just a good shout out to a lot of people in the system making the work happen. It was pretty neat and unexpected, which was nice. Sorry, Dr. Mo, go ahead.
So remember, we have our 4 sections: learning, engagement, well-being, fiscal stewardship. I'm gonna go through one by one. The biggest piece of new data comes in the learning category, and that's the state report cards were released publicly since June. So that's always our one piece of data we can't get in that year end. A couple of highlights is they did slightly change the cut scores. It's less than a point. They re-normed. So for instance, the top section used to be 83 to 100. Now it's 84 to 100. significantly exceeds, so they changed some of those cuts, not us, but the state. So what you see there is the new cut scores for those ratings. And then what you see below are our ratings here in Franklin, and then the change. The state is being clear that we are still not in an apples to apples comparison year over year. By next year, they expect it will be true apples to apples. So what they've done this year to compare this year to last year is we're only looking at 2 years of data on this past state report card instead of 3, because 3 years back was so far off to how they figured it now. They figured it was a better comparison to just look at the 2. So next year, we will have 3 years of what I would call apples to apples figured in the same way. So one big difference, and I want to be clear on that, is it's only using 2 years of past data instead of 3. Forever, it's used 3. For this 1 year only, they're using 2. So that's a difference. We expected, actually, every score on here, the good news is with lagging data, that if you're doing continuous improvement work right, this shouldn't be a surprise. And we did get the data for forward exam, which is a big one, much sooner than we did in the past. So some of the things that the state said they'd come through on, they did. We had that forward exam data much quicker this past year than in previous years. So you can click, I included the link, and on our website too, if you go to this here, there's the what's new on the report card, how are things figured. If you're somebody that really likes to understand, like myself, like down to the actual calculations, they post that publicly, and every school and district in the state of Wisconsin has their report card on the website for anybody to view. So that is all, public information. Something that I wanted to highlight for Franklin is we are one of 2, but for sure one of 1 in districts that are seeing a steady rise in poverty. So a steady rise in the number of students going to Franklin Public Schools that qualify for free and reduced lunch, more so than our surrounding suburbs. And something that I want to just foreshadow and help you understand about the report card is when they are counting up your points, the higher percentage of free and reduced lunch or the higher poverty percentage you have in your district, the more the growth category counts on your report card. So it's a sliding scale. Less poverty, your achievement counts the most. More poverty, if you can picture like a sliding dial, it slides over into growth. So not all report cards across the state are calculated the same. That poverty average dictates what your growth score counts for and what your achievement score counts for. That is not new, that's how it's always been. You can go to the website and slide the dial and see if you're interested. But of note, when we're looking at demographics of surrounding districts, Franklin has been on a steady a couple points of year incline pretty consistently for 7-8 years, where you see some other places have plateaued a bit. So that's just something of note. I think most people don't realize that that actually dictates how your score is calculated, and we're a district that has seen that dial change perhaps more than others. So just for what that's worth. Questions about report card, just because that's the biggest chunk of new information. I'm happy to explain the best I can the renorming and the recutting. There was a committee of people out of our control.
Well, your chart, though, is a chart. This is basically your summary of what happened, right?
This is the summary of our scores in Franklin the past 3 years.
And the high school kind of took a little different direction, but can we be encouraged by the students coming up, or is it that?
Well, remember, we knew that was coming at the high school, which is why we've added the biggest thing, and I'll go through that, the fall ACT administration and some things. So we knew that was coming. The drop, so high school is ACT and pre-ACT almost completely. And if you tick down on that ACT, you should expect that your report card is going to go. I mean, that's the biggest indicator. So yes, it is something that we have to correct, but we were not surprised.
And that was a statewide change? Everybody takes that test, or what was the change that?
We've implemented change in the district because we knew our ACT score had dropped from what it previously had been. So Dr. Moe will talk about it, but it's not statewide change. It's what are some options and things that we have done to more closely look at student data and how we're interacting with students, differently academically to improve that. So yeah, Dr. Moe will go through that, but it's specific to action steps. Like you heard Ashley talk about their school improvement plan and action steps. This is what the high school worked on during the leadership summit in August and has been since then in the school. And I think It's exciting work because there's progress going on and there's new data points and measurements to really have, you know, pointed direct conversations about where are we growing, where can we grow next, more than we've ever had in the past. So I'm not gonna take all your glory, Jess, but
That's okay.
it's exciting. I think this is one of the more exciting shares that's coming up about what's going on with some of our
My
action plans
question
in the
though was,
district.
they didn't all, not all kids had to take the ACT, right? That's
Yes,
not-
all juniors have to
Now
take
they
the
do, but they
ACT.
didn't always have to take.
They have for the report card, yes.
Yes.
So
That's
that's
a-
our spring assessment in the state of Wisconsin.
And that happened, what, 5 years ago or?
More than that.
More than that? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm old and my kids were in
No.
school a little while.
The one thing that's changed is the 9th and 10th grade test used to be called Aspire, and now it's called Pre-ACT. So they've always taken a test, they changed the name, just like Forward used to be Badger Exam, used to be WKCE. There used to be, but ACT has been pretty consistent. 9th and 10th do pre-ACT, and 11th graders take the ACT. The score that counts for the state report card is only the score they get on the day when they take it with us. People can choose to go and pay to take it extra, but that does not count. It counts for them, but not for our school data.
Okay, thank you for the context there.
The next section goes on, Ashley mentioned it, and I know, Mike, you said it in your introduction, that when Act 20 came into effect, remember the state picked Ames Web as the required screener. So we are in year 2 of transitioning from using MAP, NWA MAP test, to Ames Web. Because it was required for reading, we decided to do it also K3 for math last year, and then we added it to K4 this year, and it will go to 5th grade next year. So the kids that started with it, who were required to, we added it. So what I have here it's a new way to think about scores, and yes, in June, all our metrics are written for MAP. We will have to change that to be written for Ames. It is a different assessment, but these scores are all, I know I've talked to you before, are percentile ranks. So they're separated because it's percentile ranking on 2 different tests, but just so you know, there is a composite score, there is a way to track growth, all the things that we did with MAP, we can do with Ames, but some of that is still considered baseline data. Remember last year, everybody was supposed to start in fall, but the system wasn't ready, so fall became optional. So we really only have solid statewide data for winter last year, spring last year, and now fall this year, if that makes sense. So we didn't get a full year last year. So this is the data that we see currently for composite scores. To put that in perspective, I know we've talked about Act 20, that any student scoring below the 25th percentile in literacy is required to have a plan. For us, what that meant in fall, just so you get, this helped me, like a barometer, that is, so we had in fall, when we gave this assessment to all students that were required to, 1.76% of our kindergartners required a plan. So that means 1.76% of kindergartners scored below the 25th percentile. 6.79% of our first graders. So if you want to think about that in numbers, that's 19 out of 280 first graders, if you're just trying to put in perspective. And nobody really knew this, to be perfectly honest. Nobody knew what the numbers were. 12% of second graders and 10% of third graders. That kind of became our baseline. So when kids come to us in fall, who is screening with needing the plan? So that's new data that we didn't have before. We'll see if that holds. Right, year to year, month to month, but it probably will. We'll be screening again in the winter. So those kids who are on a plan stay on a plan, then any new kids who score below the 25th get added to a plan. So right now, that's 88 total students in K5 through 3rd grade, out of whatever, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 900 some. I didn't do the math on each grade level. I don't know if you're aware, but there's a required parent component for Act 20. So when that plan is created in our Next Path system, it automatically sends to parents to sign off. So that was one thing. So that's going, that's in progress. We've had a great implementation. I didn't include that data here because it's pretty new. Act 20 is very tight on the timeline, so you have exactly 5 days after a kid screens into that 25th percentile, whether it's the day before Christmas break or whether it's a random Tuesday, to get going and get a plan. So it's a waterfall of what grades test when. It takes a period of time, so it's staggered, because if the whole school is coming due on the same day, it creates a problem. So if you picture 4th, 3rd, second, first kindergarten, maybe for math, and then the opposite for reading or some system. There's a method to getting the test, but that I can tell you is completed for fall. So questions about aims or maps, just because I know that's new. Maybe understanding how we got there, we're kind of somewhere in the middle of implementing that. No? Okay. Then what I really wanted to kind of explain, because you're probably thinking, Jess, what is this? So back to your question, Linda, about the high school, something that I was really excited to share, and I knew it would need some explanation, is that this is a screenshot from our Next Path system. What you see on the left in the black are students' names crossed off. So picture that with student names, and you can scroll across to see each student's data. The high school, when they were working on, hey, our ACT scores went down, we want to add, we want to get more teachers involved, we need to do some continuous improvement, they said, it would be great if we could see college and career readiness indicators for every student in real time. So whether I have that student in strength and conditioning or advisory, if we happen to be having a conversation, I can be like, oh, and Andy, your attendance icon is red. If I can make a connection with you to get going on attendance, it's real time. So it automatically shows any student in a teacher's class. You can't go up and look up any student, so nobody can be nosy and go looking up students that are not theirs. I know that was a question. But any students in your class, you have this series of icons across. And each one of those icons stands for a college and career readiness indicator. So for instance, the handshake is that you've had a youth apprenticeship, so you've had a workplace experience. The two ways that you can become college ready, just for review, is you can have above a 2-point GPA plus one other factor, and you remember this, that's been around, or you can be proficient on all 4 of the ACT benchmarks. So this shows both of that. So whether you're an academic person or not, they would pull up their class and have a quick view. There's a million different ways you can click on it or show it or look at it per kid. This was something the high school asked for, that Mark custom created. The high school came back and said, tweak this, do that. Mark tweaked this and did that and came back. It was like, if I could make up a successful way to like grassroots get a data system to work for teachers, it would be this. So we're super excited about it. We just rolled it out September PD Day. It took a bit. But it's a way that every single teacher can be having conversations and be on board and contributing to that bucket of knowing that we have to be a little bit more prescriptive and in tune with what kids need and faster.
Can you just run through what they mean? Is that going to take too much time?
So the college indicators are 2.8 GPA.
No, I mean the pictures.
So I would have to hover. So this one, I believe, is completely college ready. This one is, so these are the ACT. The drop of liquid is science, math, writing, and reading. So this particular student, if they were all red, that means on the ACT, they did not beat the benchmark in any of them. I have to remember what these are. This is work-based experience. This is attendance rate. So it's all of these from here have an icon.
It matches that?
That match that.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
I guess I have to go find that, so.
We can't. It's only if we have a student in our class, right?
Correct.
No, I mean, those icons should be somewhere.
You want to pass that down? You can just use this. These are all the indicators. That's my note sheet. So every indicator that you see on that sheet has a picture. Yeah. We didn't make that up. That's from a national, we just put the picture to it.
Okay, but at least it's not acronyms, right?
No. And if you hover, it'll say
Right,
what it is.
yeah,
The teachers
our
know what it
teachers
is,
know.
but you don't have to memorize those if you hover over. So if I was actually in Next Path, I could hover over it and it tells you what it is.
Okay, I don't know if they didn't answer everything, but, okay, thanks for sharing.
Do parents have access to?
They do not have
their
access to
students?
Next Path, but I'll give you an example. So Mike Volo, who has been a cheerleader of this, called me maybe 2 weeks ago and said I was in an IEP meeting. I pulled up the kid, I clicked on his indicators and said, hey, you're above a 2.8 GPA and you've gotten a C or better in Algebra 2, but you haven't had a workplace learning experience yet. Sounds like you want to be whatever the kid wanted to be. I don't remember. So after this meeting, I'm going to walk you down and see Mr. Thompson, and he's going to hook you up with a workplace experience, because he could quickly pull up that kid and see that his little handshake was in red and say boom, and the parents are like, what is that? So you can show parents in those meetings. Counselors will use them for junior conferences and like working with parents. And so parents can't get into Next Path per se, but all of those meetings where they're talking about kids, the staff has been instructed to like have it pulled up and know it, so you can quickly say, yes, they've met this, no, they haven't met this. So IEP meetings, 504 plan meetings, parent-teacher conferences, they do a lot of it in advisory, so they have a different one of these that they review with advisees monthly. So like, oh, we're gonna go in and look at everybody's attendance. You're red, you're green, you're red, you're green, come over here, let's do something, let's get you in a group type of thing. And before that, I don't want to say that the information wasn't available, but it wasn't readily available. So if I'm also being honest, I don't think every IEP they were talking about whether or not a kid had had a workplace experience. I don't think that they were having those real-time conversations, and now we can. Question? Sorry, Linda, I thought you were going to say something. No. Okay. Any other questions? No. So if you want to see that, again, I would be happy to sit down. I can slide the kids' names over. I can show you in real time. It's hard to kind of picture on here. I tried to get the big and the little, but we're super happy about that's up and running, and high school's happy. The next thing that I wanted to show you is engagement. And so remember, we give the student engagement and the employee engagement 3 times a year, family engagement twice a year. We do those in our survey weeks. The next one is going to be the week of January 19th, so we'll have new data come then. But something that's very exciting that I know the board has asked for a while is I want to just see year over year type of data. So these charts all show since this coherence plan started, where is our data? So student engagement data, you can see the first time our baseline to get ready for the coherence plan was spring of 24. The last year was our first full year of the coherence plan. There's 3 scores, and then here's our new fall score. So the scores in green is the data you haven't seen yet. But we also haven't presented it in a way that we can actually start to see some year over year improvement. So remember, this is our net promoter score. For students, only middle and high school students give that, and this is the average score on all 5 questions, both of which are our highest averages that we've had for students, so we're happy about that. Same for employee, same sort of setup, the net promoter score, and then the average of all questions. That's on a 5-point scale, so that's just taking all those questions and everybody that answers it. We do have about 75% of employees that complete these surveys, which, if you know about surveys, is a pretty high number. That's more than you can hope to get, so we feel like it's representative. And it goes to everybody who is a full-time employee, so EAs, food service, teachers, everybody. It's not just teachers. Questions about that? Does that make sense, how that's presented?
I
Yeah.
just think for them to respond must mean that they feel like it matters.
I hope so.
Which I think speaks volumes to your work.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. We're trying, and our principals work really hard on bringing that data. Like you heard Ashley speak about her teams, her engagement teams. That's the teams that are working on these action steps and looking at this data. Each building has a family engagement team, an employee engagement team, and a student. So you heard them talk about, that's what in real time, that's the team that did that, took their data for their building and did action steps based on that.
Yeah, just quickly, what is the net promoter score again?
So on the survey, they ask a question, how likely are you to recommend Franklin Public Schools? And the research says that people who say on a scale of 1 to 10, a 9 or a 10 are promoters, meaning they're actively out saying, come to Franklin, come to Franklin. People in the middle are neutral, meaning they're not really out saying good or bad things about Franklin, but they're not promoting it. And then people who answer negatively at the bottom of the scale are considered detractors, meaning they're probably working against us. That is a research method. You know, you think differently when you see that. How did I do today? Every time you go to the doctor, that's likely what they're doing. Or how likely are you to recommend anything positive? So the score is negative 100 to positive 100, with 0 being neutral. So the research would say any net promoter score that's positive is considered excellent. So it's a negative to a positive, with 0 being the middle, if that helps you. Does that help?
That helps.
Yes.
I just like, so we're asking our students that? I guess that was our, I thought that we were only doing that with our parents. I wasn't sure we were doing with students, and I don't know how valuable it would be for students, but certainly employees, I get that, and I get families, but I'm just not sure why we would be asking students that, but.
I'll be honest with you, we care our students satisfied with their experience here. Do you feel like Franklin is a place you'd recommend? Is it meeting your needs? And then they can give comments, and kids say, they kind of tell it like it is, why they would recommend it or why they wouldn't. So after you rate the number, it'll say, why did you rate it this way? And they'll say, what did the 9s and 10s say? What did the 0s and 1s say? A school can then take that data. So for instance, at the high school, they do random focus groups, and they pull up that data, and they say, why do you think kids said this? What can we do differently? And that's honestly been a lot of what they've done with, they're doing some high-interest gold blocks, for instance. So kids can sign up for passion-type projects. That came out of some of those focus groups, and kids saying, I would really like more of a chance to do whatever it is, blah, blah, blah. So that would be an example.
I mean, I look at the scores, they're, you know, double digits compared to employees, which are, they're kind of all over the place, but they're much smaller than compared to students. I'm not sure what they know, but okay, thank you.
The last piece of data that's kind of new is in the well-being section. So this is not a metric, but it's data that we have that I know the board's been interested in. So our SABRS screener goes out twice a year to students in grades 3 through 8. And we, when we put a screener in place, the first thing that we look for is that are 80% of kids meeting our benchmarks? Because if 80% of kids are not doing the thing, you have a lot more work to do besides intervention. Like you can't intervene with a huge chunk of kids. So the good news that we have to report for SABRS is more than 80% of our kids are coming in low risk. It doesn't mean we've catch every single student every single time, but that they're solidly feeling like they have the skills to either navigate school or know where to go for help or what to do if they need it. Students that come in some risk or high risk automatically are reviewed at an MLSS meeting. I just sat one at an elementary school today, and they had 3 kids on there who, either parents brought up concerns at conferences or they had a SABRS screener that was somewhat concerning. Every student that screens some risk or high risk has a meeting with the school psych, like call in, let's look at your data, what does this mean? Sometimes the kids are like, well, I didn't know, and it's an anomaly, but sometimes it uncovers kid that has been quietly, I don't want to say suffering, but quietly needing some help with skills, and now we've made that connection. So it's something that we've considered expanding. We do see an improvement in both tests. So the teacher fills out one about the kid and the kid fills out one about themselves, and the scores are reported together. So we've seen an improvement on both of those measures on kids, less kids that are coming in at risk, which makes us feel good from the continuous improvement. Not that there's not still kids we need to help, but that our student body as a whole with that measure is showing improvement. The last thing that I included here, just as a metric, is the same as before, but we are specifically tracking the FPS has put effective protocols in place to ensure safety. So that's something that Luann and Andy Daniels, being on the safety committee, have gone around and talked to the engagement teams they talked about what would make you feel safe, what trainings do you need. So an example of, why do we give the survey? Well, we give it for the big data, but we also give it for some of the little data. So this is how that particular question, just the question about safety, tracks and how we might extract something little. Right now it happens to be around safety, but I just want to make sure you understand that we're looking at big and little data, and this happens to be the piece going kind of now, visiting, talking to people. that is it for clarifying. I know I went way long. You're probably like, just stop, but it's hard to put data in there and then make the assumption that everybody understands it. And so if something's not clear, I just want to make sure I answer that for you. Questions? Thoughts?
Just overall, great use of the coherence plan and in demonstrating how it's not just collecting the data, but using it to actually guide and drive your work. And I really appreciate, it's interesting, like we've presented the coherence plan as sort of a way to drill down and encapsulate the data in a snapshot. And I think it's cool that you're also, if people want to go back and see the raw data that drove those numbers, it's available. So good job.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Thank you very much. We will move on to the 26, 27, and 27, 28 school calendar. Ms. Lancour, please.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
So this is the second viewing of the 26, 27, 27, 28 calendars. The changes that were made since the last meeting were indicated in red on the summary. So I'm happy to answer any questions at this point if you have additional ones.
I move that we accept the 26, 27, 27, 28 calendars as presented.
Second.
Motion was made by Dr. Beer, seconded by Dr. Khan. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And for clarification for people that might be viewing this, we have two calendars that were just approved, and next year the 28, 29 calendar will be approved. So we'll have 2 years of calendars ahead of time in the future. So thank you very much, and we'll move on to open enrollment seats 26, 27, please.
Sure. So this is an information item for the board this evening. This is kind of our first preview of this item. So a couple of things about open enrollment that are important to remember. So open enrollment is really a snapshot of 1 year, or like 1 year of where we are. It's not really necessarily a predictor from year to year of what's going to happen. So 26, 27 could look entirely different from 27, 28 or 28, 29. So just something to keep in mind. We have taken into account a lot of different factors when we determine our open enrollment seats. So we think about what is the growth in the community. We're very conscious of different, housing areas that are going up and different families that might be moving in. We also take into account census data and historical data that helps us predict what it might look like in the future. And then we take into account the class size policy for the school district in terms of our cap on how many students we would put in a classroom, as well as our roll forward of the number of teachers we have in each of those grade levels. And that's kind of what ultimately creates the calculation to consider what seats we would offer for the next school year. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Yeah, Linda.
No, please.
Well, I've noticed that it's quite a bit higher than anything we've ever had before.
Mhm.
It's 463 seats across the district. Last year, we approved 104.
Mhm.
Granted, we didn't fill those all, but that is an enormous jump. And I did go through your calculation, and it appears that your projection is actually 162 less than we currently have this year. So I'm not sure when you said you're projecting new housing, when your projection is 162 less than our Friday count last year.
So I'm sorry, just trying to clarify like which numbers you're thinking about. So you're thinking about our total enrollment? Is that what you're looking at as a part of your consideration?
Well, it's across the board, really. You've got changes. I mean, you got 162 less, so there are changes that are where you have less in every class to get that kind of number. You have, it's all over the board. I mean, you have different grades are different, but overall, your projection is less than we had last year. So which generates the difference justifying the 463 because you backed off your projection. So
Correct.
where are you accounting for Franklin growth in this projection?
Yeah,
Seems
so
like we're opening them all up to people outside the district and not accounting for any growth, and in fact, a reduction in growth in our students.
So one way to look at it is if on this chart that we kind of, that was linked into it, if you look at, so the roll-up, or the 26-27 roll-up is the number of students that we have from, you know, that are moving from kindergarten to first, that whole process from one year, this year to next year, yep.
Right.
And then the 26-27 is really the projected growth that we have in terms of the Franklin growth, and that's showing us historical data about what we can predict. Now, you will see that there are some grade levels where the numbers go down in terms of our historical data has told us. So for example, in 6th grade, you might see that. That's not completely uncommon in the sense that 6th grade is a milestone year where families might choose to move or relocate or seek alternate, you know, that's kind of like one of those years where my students is changing school, so this is the time that we've decided to move or relocate or whatever that might be. So we really take that data into account when in terms of like community growth about what we can expect. And then we basically predict the numbers off of that. So we use census data as well. Angie?
So for resident
Yeah.
growth, and if we think 4K through fifth grade, we're only, the numbers that you see are only filling to 90% of seats. So if we have 30, or it's close to 29 seats in 5th grade, but we'll use 30 because it's easy math. 90% would be 27, so we would fill an open enrollment up to 27, meaning there's still 3 seats in every 5th grade section. And there's 13-ish, 12, 13 sections in all of our grades. So presumably, we'd have 13 times 3, or 39 residents could move in, and presumably, we would be able to fill their seats. Now, if all 39 moved in at Pleasant View, like, yeah, we'd have to take a look at what we're gonna do there, and maybe another section opens up at Pleasant View specifically, but typically, they're sprinkled, I call it like salt on popcorn, right? You sprinkle it on there, and it kind of hits in a whole bunch of different places. It doesn't all land in one kernel.
Go ahead, Amy.
So is it, I think our responsibility is just to ensure, like, I trust that you're looking at the historical census data accurately. I trust that you're rolling up the data accurately. Is it safe to say that you are not maintaining any classrooms solely for the purpose of maintaining open enrollment slots? In other words, all of the classrooms into which you are enrolling, would like to enroll open enrollment students are classrooms that would be extant because of the existence of Franklin students to begin with. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I mean, that's really all that, and then whether or not we think that a 90% point is reasonable. It seems to be the two questions that are.
Well, I also have noticed that compared to last year's calculation, this calculation, that you have increased the cap, particularly in the.
At both middle school and the high school.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep, and so our high school classes have.
157, which also contributes to the, again, the comparison that allows you to come to your 463s because you.
So high school went from 385 to 390. Historically, we've had in the low 400s, up to 425 kids in a class with not an issue in terms of the size of the building. And we're adding square feet to the building, right? So we have additional space, specifically in our tech ed and athletic spaces to sprawl out more, I would say, instead of being confined. And then in the middle school, I believe it goes from 360 to 365. But again, we're historically seeing about a 30 student jump from middle school to high school. So that puts us right at that 365 to about 395 is where we're anticipating. So keeping that. And then additionally, those are things we'll take a look at year after year. So if we're finding out that 390, there's no magic number, right? If there was a magic number, we would sell that and every school district would use it. And so there isn't a magic number. It's really trying to fit the class sizes that we're looking for at both the middle school and the high school together, and really at the elementary as well. And then if we have seats available, we're already paying for the lights, we're already paying for the instructor. So if we have those seats available and we still have resident room growth, that's really where we want to fit that sweet spot. But again, the 460 that you see, we will not fill 460 seats. It's just not going to happen. We don't have the space, but the calculation is what is showing the 460. What's also really important to note is it's important to have a strategy for open enrollment seats. So if you wanted to just say wide open, we'll accept everybody, there's no strategy needed. You could just say, you don't even have to approve anything. We wouldn't even approve and then you just accept everybody. But if we want to put a cap, we can either say we're not accepting anybody, and DPI will accept that either, and say we're totally shutting it off, we'll accept no new open enrollment applicants. You do not need a formula of any sort. But if you do want to put a cap in place, you have to have some sort of defensible mechanism. So our defensible mechanism is 90% at elementary, and these are the grade level caps we would like at middle school and high school. We can adjust those from year to year, but to arbitrarily say like 390 in ninth grade, 385 in 10th grade, 345, and like, that's a little bit arbitrary in terms of that. So it's really, the board needs to do a couple of things. One, are we verifying that we're not just adding, or for your purposes, are we not just adding classrooms because that's not what you want to do? Do we have a defensible mechanism, meaning do we have formulas in place? And do you believe that we're setting it at the right limits? And if all three of those things are in place, the numbers just are not, the numbers are just numbers right there. It's a formula, you plug it in and kicks out the numbers.
And I would add to that, I know this last year, and I think the year before that too, we had, a family appeal to DPI because they didn't get in on open enrollment and they wanted to get in and they're on the wait list. So then you have to prove all the things that Mr. Cromie just said to DPI. So we do all the work, send all the paperwork, and none of those have been turned over. So that process and the way Andy's explaining it is really important because you basically have to rectify why those positions are there.
And if we do lose that appeal, we lose every other appeal. Now, most people don't necessarily appeal, but if they do, it's an automatic loss. And you just accept them.
So we have a current appeal going on right now?
We do not have a current
No,
appeal going on. We
we do
had
not.
somebody
We've had-
appeal. DPI says, show us your process, bring us your things. That's what we did. I worked with Heidi to do that. And then it's closed case. You get an action report
We've
from.
had not been appealed before. There's been no appeals won or even filed.
There's no appeals out there right
Okay,
now, no.
all right. So I guess I just find, why do we want to go add 463 seats to open enrollment? We currently have 400 kids right now in our schools. That is 10% of our student enrollment roughly. And we're going to add 463 and if they're all filled, we'd be doubling what we have. Is that correct
No.
statement?
They
If
won't
they're
all
all
be-
filled,
If they all got filled, yes.
if they all got filled, they would be.
Yeah.
Yes. Why would we do that?
Well, the odds of filling them all, like if you look at, data from the past, which is all in board docs, you're
I've
not gonna
seen it.
fill them all, right? Like every family can pick their 3 schools. You might have a family with 3 children, one gets in, the other 2 don't, the family will decline, or they get in, but they got into their second choice, and we're their third choice, they're gonna go to their second choice, or just things change. So we've never filled all the seats historically. It'd be pretty rare to fill them, but correct, if you did fill them all, that's what the math would come out to.
You've never approved.
Last year, we had about 250 applications in general. So even if we had 460 seats open, the max we could have allowed in is 250.
And if, even if 463 did come in, that would leave our classrooms 90% full.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you. Andrew?
So again, what I'm hearing is it's helpful to have a conversation about, are we comfortable with the 90% number? Are we comfortable with having a cap in place for open enrollment at all? And then sort of saying we approve of the math that they have used to come up with these, but to at the end say, but I don't like 463, it just feels too high. That is not a sort of a legitimate way to approach the situation. And again, the reason is because it has to be, it's prescribed by DPI, the way to think about this. So I think.
I don't think, no, DPI doesn't prescribe how to look at it.
No, they're saying that we have to have a
Have to
system
have a
in place.
formula.
Have a system.
And
And so
formula in
this
place.
is the system that they've.
Yes, it's
that
the
they've
same
suggested.
system as we had before. I understand that, but we.
So anyway, I support what you have said because it seems a reasonable system. It will not be, it is neither eliminating the ability for Franklin students to have a seat in an appropriately classroom to teacher ratioed situation, nor is it forcing us to add staff or classrooms that don't already exist. And the benefit of enrolling students is, especially in the most recent biennial budget, is it is a financial incentive to the district to do so.
The one component to it, like, if we would fill 463 seats next year, you could say, we're not accepting anybody. Like, we
Right.
are filled as high as we want to be to open enrollment. This year, we're putting a moratorium on accepting any applications.
And districts have done that, if you
Yep.
see that, there's districts that have done that, they just won't accept any.
With no system in place. You just say,
You
You
can
don't have
simply
to.
say, we're not accepting open enrollment seats.
If you say no, you don't need a system.
Correct.
The board has the prerogative to say that.
but I guess I don't understand why the caps have changed so much in the elementary area. You've added 137.
Because we're filling to 90%.
Yeah, so probably the biggest area is 4K. And one of the changes we made in calculating 4K this year, historically, we've carried our 4K number, which includes open enrollment students, and done our projection off of that. But that's really including those 4K students. So what we did for 4K was we backed that out and said, what are our resident students for the 7 years or 6 years we've had 4K? And pulled out the open enrollment, because really we're filling residents, and then whatever's left is where we would fill open enrollment. So you'll see that look significantly less than it did last year for 4K, because we're only working with projected resident students. So that's probably the largest one. At the elementary as well, we took a look at, last year we filled to 85%, and we had a whole bunch of seats that we could have filled really at 4K, 5K, and first grade is really where we see the most at our youngest grades. And people want to come to Franklin, but they want to come and start here. And like anywhere else, and like any one of you that have ever had kids, if you have a great educational experience, you're probably keeping your kids there regardless of where it is, because it works for you, right? And so we see that same thing. So families do not come here in 4K or 5K or first grade. They're typically probably staying, if they're having a good educational experience, they're gonna stay there, and by all means they should, because that's good for their family. So that's where we'll see the most growth, is 4K, 5K, and 1. And then ideally, they're gonna carry their way through, right? And those projected numbers of future open enrollment seats will lower, because we're gonna start carrying them through. Now, it'll take some time because there's 13 grades, but like we'll start carrying them through. So but that biggest difference specifically is on 4K, and then backing that out to only residents from a projection standpoint.
I didn't see much change from last year. I do see you back down that is one area where, yes, you recognize your experience versus, but once we commit to those students, we have them through the high school.
Correct.
We can't say no to them once they're here.
Yes.
Once they stay here and stay enrolled, we can not say no to them. But if they decided to go somewhere else for a year, they don't automatically come back under that seat. They'd have
Correct.
to reapply.
But if everybody, it's 235 students, I'll make it almost 300 in those early grades. We're committing to that kind of commitment through the high school, and we haven't built high school yet. High school.
We haven't increased any numbers because of what's being built at the high school, though. So I wouldn't want that confusion out there. Like, there's not increased seats because we built onto the high school and we're changing that. Like you see through the high school, it went up. As Andy said, we increased by 5 grade level size for middle school and high school.
Maksu, did you have a question?
Comment and a question. First, I think comment is, what I see is that, as Mr. Cromie mentioned, is that if you are as simple as the example, if you're going to the airport, instead of having 3 passengers, instead of 4 passengers, it's better for all the passengers to be in, because it brings extra revenue to kind of, and I think we had the discussion last year too, although I love to see 463, to be honest, because that would bring so much of money and revenue into the district, and help us kind of with the property taxes, no matter what we talk about, especially when we talk about fiscal responsibility. It'll help us bring the property taxes extra and be able to pay off our debts and do all the other things which we want to envision. But we have never been able to do that. That's my first comment. Second, question which I have is that I know a lot of people aspire to come to high school specifically because Franklin High School has a name recognition in the state. Is there any ways, because a lot of communities which I talk about, they always, hey, we can't get into high school because it's always full. Mm-hmm. Is there any way where we can cap on the desire of the surrounding communities, especially I know communities from Milwaukee and other districts in which they're not as good as Franklin. Can we tap into that desire of the communities to graduate from high school and somehow offer more seats, or it's not doable?
Yeah, the 390 number at the high school, like I said, we've had historical classes over 400 up to 425, so could we fit 425 per 4 grade levels? Yep, we'd want to make sure we have some open enrollment seats available, but that number 390, again, that can be adjusted, that could go to 395, that could go to 400. That's really, we kept it at 390, again, because we know we'll still have some resident growth over the long period of time. So it's really inching forward. If we feel we did not fill enough seats or we still have capacity, next year we've already talked about, maybe it's 395 is the right number, or maybe it is 400. Again, if I had the exact answer, I would tell you today what the exact answer is. But I know our schools can easily, or our high school can easily handle 390 at each grade level. It could handle 395. So if you wanted to inch that up to allow for some potential more high school, that's really up to the board to direct us. We bring that back at 395 for approval in January. Like, that's an easy calculation. And again, when we think about our DPI defense, because we have different grade, our schools are different grade levels. K-5 for elementary, we have to have that formula, 6-8 for middle school, and 9-12. So as long as our formula is consistent by grade level or by building, we're totally fine.
So, and in the past, Mr. Cromie, we have been able to fill all the high school seats, am I right?
We typically have not had seats available at the high school
Yeah,
level.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I know, because talking to the communities and surrounding communities, and I know own community also. I think maybe as a board, if you want to just kind of think about how, if there's a desire in surrounding communities to come to Franklin High School specifically because people want to graduate from a high, which elementary school you go to, which middle school goes to, it makes a value for the district itself, but a lot of the parents who are looking into colleges and higher education, or even the platform which we offer at the high school, like CNA, which we are going to offer, other technical trainings and all that stuff, which is not being provided by the school districts. If they want to tap into Franklin High School, is there a way we can accommodate their desire at the same time be financially beneficial?
So presumably, like, again, if you went to 395 or 400, like, that's not a big deal. We'd be able to easily fill that. At some point, if our 4K, 5K, and 1 start to fill up, that 395, 400 is going to net us the same result of 0, right? At some point, we're going to catch up to that. Again, it's going to take some years to do that, but at some point, we'll catch up to that. But in the short term, if you were looking to do that, like, again, our high school could easily have that from a capacity. It is important to note, like, we're plus 300 on open enrollment, or net 300 on open enrollment. That does provide us ability to do some things that we would not be able to do without that, right? There is some, not necessarily staffing, but certainly courses that we offer simply because we have that additional revenue that we would not be able to offer. So it is a positive for us, and it's up to you to decide where you want to draw the line or where you feel comfortable with. But if you're looking simply from a capacity standpoint, if we move to 395 or 400 to accommodate that, that would not be, like, we would be totally fine at the high school from a staffing level. Not adding staff from a space, we would be able to accommodate that.
Even with the construction happening over the next 3 years.
Yep.
Right. Because I think we have always been able to fill our high school, and we never had actual capacity to even offer because we always fall. But if now the next few years, if we have a capacity, so shall we take the advantage of the capacity which we have to offer? Because by the time,
How do people feel about that?
The only concern is because there are classes at Franklin that are filled to capacity. And so I wish there were a way to know but you can't sort of say, are you going to be wanting to do a lot of
Right.
metals classes or not? So that's my one hesitation. But in terms of a raw number, I would be fine with it.
Am I correct that we haven't had openings at the high school in the last couple of years?
It's like we might have
Very
had one
few.
at a grade level, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
very
but
So-
very few.
To me, I feel like
And usually not
this is a
9:30.
new, you know, like we have more spaces this year. Maybe we start with this and see if we fill all these. Then next year when we're looking at things, we decide, okay, you know what, we had no problem filling the, whatever it is, 45 places that we tried last year. We could increase it, but I don't know, that's just my thought.
Linda?
Do we have any vacant classrooms in the elementaries?
We do, but they're, like, we don't have a teacher
They're
in them,
not
but schools are like water. If you just start pouring water, right, it just finds the low area and pools in there. So if you have a vacant room, it becomes a storage or it becomes a breakout room or something like that. So we have capacity. So if you remember the MD Roffer study, when we talked about that early on in the referendum talk, right, Countrydale is gonna double in size over the next 20 years, right? But if you recall, we did not need to add capacity at the elementary level. We just needed to rearrange where students were or were attending. So like the boundary word's gonna come up, right? And that's usually not a really fun talk. But, so to your point, yeah, we have empty classrooms that right now we would have to take over and move, like Ben Franklin, Southwood Glen has some. So if we filled up entirely to elementary capacity, we could do that based on the MD Roffer study. It just has to be rearranged on where they're coming from. Again, not a fun talk.
Because I think, you know, what I have seen is that most of the surrounding communities want to enroll in 9th grade because they want to start 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, you know, and do like that. So that I don't know if, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cromie, we are not offering anyway for senior to 12th grade, but it's unlikely that a senior from, you know, from a surrounding neighboring district will like to kind of just come to, because most of the kids who are wanting to go to high school and graduate from high school, they want to come to 9th grade and then stay here for 4 years because they develop camaraderie, they get all the opportunity, all the platforms which we offer, you know, different opportunities. So my suggestion is that maybe at least for the 9th grade, at least if we can increase to 395 and see, it's a number if it's not, and we can accommodate because we had up to 420, I think, once upon one of the graduations which we attended was 423 students. So if we increase even the 9th grade up to 395, might, you know, at least give us a level of a, because anyway we have not been able to fill in reality the elementary and the middle school in the past, all the open enrollments. We have been able to always, the high school open enrollments are a very valuable asset which we have, which we can, you know.
Mary, what's your level of comfort with raising from 390 to 395?
That seems reasonable and modest enough for a start.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Please.
Okay, well, your model currently, though, has no growth for Franklin students. In fact, it has a reduction from current. So
We have seats available. We're filling to 90% in K-5 with residents.
correct, based on your projections that you made
Right.
for the
So
next year.
10% of seats are held open or not being filled with open enrollment seats for residential growth. And at each of the capacities at the middle school and the high school, the middle school can handle classes up to that 365 plus no problem. The high school can handle over 400, no problem. So there are open resident seats available at each of those grade levels because those numbers that you see from the open enrollment seats only fill up to that grade level cap.
Correct, but part of that gap that you're seeing there is because you are projecting less of Franklin students. That's what creates that additional capacity.
In a couple spots it goes down, but overall that's not the case, and that's all off of data over the last few years and looking at what those numbers are and making the best prediction. And that's why this is, as Laura started out with the beginning, reset every year. But most of those numbers, when you look at it, are going up. But there are a few spots where we've seen, you know, less enrollment over the last few years trending, so they went down. But to
So-
Andy's point, 10% is 10% in every one of those grade levels.
So I was just responding to your question that says we're not creating room for resident growth. We are, because we're not filling to full capacity. If we were going to full capacity, any new resident enrollment would push us over capacity at a grade level, but we are not filling to that. So that's the question I was responding to.
No, I just want to say I'm comfortable that this is a 1-year prediction, right? So we're not predicting what's going to happen over the next 20 years. This is a 1-year look ahead of what we think is going to happen for the next year. It seems like it's based on sound principles. A 90% cap seems reasonable to me, and I am comfortable with a modest 395 increase at the high school level.
Thank you. Yeah, Linda.
I appreciate your, saying this is a one-year thing and we're looking historically. But why this year? We're going from 100. If you look at the history, this is clearly something different. It's 463. The highest we'd had was 100 over, and only in the last 3 years have we gone to 100. Every other year, it's like 50 or 60. So why are we seeing this dramatic change in this 1 year? To your
Okay,
point,
so
it's
we've
supposed
used
to
the
be connected
formula.
to
In the past,
history.
the formula was not done. It was simply handpicked by grade level where the seats were gonna go. There was no defensible response for it. We have put a formula in place.
You weren't doing it right before.
You shared something last year, so this is wrong.
Nope.
No.
It was not-
That was the formula provided last year too.
That was 85%.
Okay.
So the formula switched from 85% last year, which was the first year we had a formula,
To 90.
to 90%
And
this
that
year.
goes from 104 to 463.
Correct.
Yes.
It's all based on number. It's a math formula. You
Right.
plug
I
in
looked at the
numbers and it kicks out
numbers.
a
Talk
result.
about whether you like 90 versus 85. I
It-
understand that the 400 is very uncomfortable, but
You have to compare it's the
It's
formula, not the
it's
result.
the cap that I'm particularly concerned about. It's the fact that I don't believe you've allowed for too much growth. You're saying there's that 10%, you're only going to 90, but you're starting out a lot less than we were last year. We're continuing a trend of declining enrollment for Franklin students, is what you're doing.
are we creating classrooms that are not necessary for Franklin students?
We're projecting what we believe are going to be the seats that will be filled next year. That's what we're projecting.
And we
Then
can't
we plug
create-
that into the formula, and the result is the result. The result is totally arbitrary. The formula is what makes the decision, right?
And the formula has some logic to it, right?
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
Yes, I mean, I look through the formula and I see what the changes are. You added more capacity and you started at a lower number.
The lower
And
number
I'm
is
saying,
off
I
the-
prefer that
We're-
we went
We're
back
not
off a little
handpicking,
bit.
but then we're handpicking potential growth. So again, we're taking a cast forward model to start with. That's the base model that Laura has in the second column. Then we take a look at what has been the historical growth from kindergarten to first, from first to second, from second to third, at every grade level. And we say, well, if we had 200 this year and we anticipate based on 5 years, it depends on every grade level too. So we take a look at, sometimes it's 5 years history because it's pretty standard, we go up 5 kids. Sometimes it's only 2 years history because there was anomalies in years 3, 4, and 5, right? So every grade level is approached differently, but you take a look at, we have 200 kids in kindergarten this year, we average 10 kids growth from kindergarten to first grade, so our prediction next year would be 210 kids. We have 13 sections over, we have 12 sections over, you multiply that by number of seats, back it down to 90%, it's a simple subtraction problem. So the enrollment, I will not handpick enrollment for you and say, I think this is what third grade is without doing actual math. So I'm not gonna change that, even if the board asks me to. What we can do is take a look at number of sections and say, well, I think we should back that down to 12 sections from 13. I'll do that and say, well, all right, we'll take a look at where we can do that, but I don't wanna throw arbitrary numbers out for projections, because at some point, we're gonna come back and take a look at that and say, were we even close? And I don't wanna be there going, well, we just shot 257.
So
out
it's
of
an
a cannon.
industry standard formula, and we've changed from 85 to 90% this year, and that's the formula, and so it's a math problem. So we can move on to the next, we can move on to the next item.
Can I ask what you might see next year?
We would probably use the same formula of 90% and we'd
You'd
roll the
start?
numbers forward. Andy just went through the whole process. We will look at that same process next year and we will look at what we've seen by grade level as the typical growth trending over the last few years. Same formula will be looked at. Unless the board says we want to fill the 95% capacity, then Andy will go back through the numbers and go to 95% capacity.
Or we have tons of resident growth and we say we're going back to 85. Like,
So there's a plan and it'll change year to year based on what the actual numbers are that we're seeing.
So can I?
Pretty
do I have to
dramatic
make a
is what I'm
motion
saying.
to increase?
Yes, it is.
no, I
Dramatic.
think we have direction from enough of you to say we'll go to 395 at the high school. So when you see the new plan, we'll plug in 395 in that column, do the subtraction problem, and that'll tell you what the seats are available. But take that number plus 20 seats, right? 5 at 9, 5 at 10, 5 at 11, 5 at 12.
Thank you. All right, board clerks.
Do you have to motion and vote?
No,
on this?
no,
this
it's
is
action item next meeting.
Thank you so much.
All right, board clerk's report, election notices. Dr. Beer, please.
Notice is hereby given that an election is to be held in the Franklin Public School District on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026, and the following offices are to be elected to succeed the present incumbents listed below. The term of office for school board members is 3 years, beginning on Monday, April 27th, 2026. First office is for school board member Mrs. Linda Witkowski, a 3-year term, April 27th, 2026 through April 22nd, 2029. The second is for school board member Mrs. Mary Yank for the same term. Notice is further given that a campaign registration statement and a declaration of candidacy must be filed no later than 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 6th, 2026, in the office of the school district clerk, 8255 West Forest Hill Avenue, Franklin, Wisconsin. Candidacy papers may be picked up at the FPS Education and Community Center during office hours, Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., beginning December 1st, 2025. Please note the filing office will be closed December 22nd, 2025 through January 2nd, 2026. The filing office will be open until 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 6th, 2026 for the filing deadline. You may pick up candidacy papers during the closed dates. Candidacy papers will be available in the FPS Education and Community Center vestibule. Notice is further given that if a primary is necessary, the primary election will be held on Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. The Franklin Public School District boundary map can be found on the district website, franklin.k12.wi.us. Signed, Angela Beer.
Thank you. Any questions on that? All right, we'll move on to the board review of meeting feedback and action steps. In front of you, you have the board meeting for the last board meeting behaviors reports, which a lot of people filled out for the meetings in September, October, and November. Linda suggested we use negative and positive governance drivers from a previous board workshop, so I have included that. I've included that sheet with negative and positive governance drivers. And there's also a synopsis of the themes of what happened or what was written in those sheets. I would hope that we could come to some sort of setting goals for what we will talk about in our board workshop on the 4th of March, I think it is. What goals we would set from here to there by discussing that feedback and possibly get some action steps on how we might improve from now to then and continue to improve after that. And considering it's 10 to 8 and Angie's going to be leaving at 8 o'clock, I will start with her.
I think that the themes that you've extracted from the comments are useful. I think that we can use, again, the same themes that really came up in the initial board retreat, which I was briefed on because I missed that initial board retreat. But again, we can all work on agenda discipline. We can all work on waiting to be recognized, myself included. I did include some self-reflection in my sheet that I am as guilty and perhaps more so than anyone in terms of speaking without being recognized. So that's something that I personally plan to work on. And I think holding each other accountable to below the line, above the line commentary and respectful discourse is a reasonable goal for the board.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to remind us that, just kind of circling back here for a second, we did have a retreat in August where we decided that we wanted to work on these board behaviors at the table and, you know, kind of improving our board discourse. And that's why we brought in these evaluations for after each meeting to fill them out. I appreciate all the members who did actually do that because that's the data we're using tonight to look at. So we're going to continue to do that until our March retreat. So that we can continue to look at what are we doing well and what do we need to continue to improve on. But it only works when the whole board participates in it. And so we agreed to do it in August. I'd like to agree, like, get a, you know, a further agreement that we are gonna continue to do this now until our March board workshop. And then, yes, maybe kind of highlight some of these themes and pick maybe something. We have improved, but we are not there yet. But it takes all of us to actually participate. Things will not improve if everyone is not participating.
Mary?
Obviously reiterate what has already been said. I think when I went to the couple common council meetings, it was just a sea change of how people were respectful of raising their hand or letting somebody else finish. And I was like, it just, even if they disagreed, it seemed like there wasn't, they said their piece and did not, you know, they said it in a respectful way and then yielded. I think they even used that word. I yield to the next speaker. So it just seemed a little more professional, and I certainly would hope to strive for something along those lines.
Maksud?
No, I think, you know, as we all, first it starts having a very, very respectful. And respect is earned, not given. So we all need to be addressing, of course, outside the board meeting, I can address Andy as Andy, but when I'm addressing during the board meeting, I must be addressing him as Mr. Cromie, because that's respectful. So how we address each other by with respect and allowing others to be heard and listen at the same time is important. I think we have a great district, we have accomplished a lot, and we'll continue to do this, but at the same time, sometimes our behavior does reflect we are role models, to be honest. We are the leaders of the community sitting at this table here. It comes with a big responsibility of how we act here. Because if you don't do that, then how do you tell the kids in the elementary school or the middle school, if they're having disagreement, how to solve the disagreements in a cohesive, respectful manner? Thank you.
Linda?
Well, if I look at the negative versus positive governance drivers sheet that I shared with everybody, I do see on the negative drivers the focus on individual board behavior on the negative side. And this whole sheet here that we're asked to fill out talks about behaviors. So if we're going to continue this, I think we're focusing on the wrong side of the picture here. We should be focusing on the right side, not individual board behavior. That's what we learned at that workshop. And this is what this focused on. Nobody provided any questions, very little questions concerned for the board to discuss. There was not really much going on there.
You didn't provide anything
You
at
didn't
all.
provide anything.
Well, I did take notes. I could share those. I have a couple of things I could share right now, if you're interested.
Not the
but
right time. You were asked to
can
submit things.
I have not seen any of these till tonight, so.
Nor have any of us.
So then why, if I share mine now, why would that be inappropriate?
Because we agreed that we would fill these out and hand them in. You asked for leeway to hand them in the next day, and then you haven't.
I'll own that, but I've been busy, okay? I've been gone, and we're all at the board table right here, and I can share some of those questions with you. But you don't want to hear them now, because I turned them in at the right time. That's what you're saying. I don't care what you said, I only care that you didn't turn them in at the right time.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, tell me what you're saying then.
Andy, did you have something?
Let me what I was gonna say is, when you started your comment, Linda, talking about the negative and the positive, our decision at the August retreat was to focus on our individual behaviors at the board table, because those individual behaviors at the board table are preventing us from being a cohesive board. So we can't do this, which, yes, we talked about a couple years ago, I think, in a board retreat, but we can't necessarily do that until we are all on the same page at the table. And if we could all get on the same page at the table, then we would be able to have this focusing on governance and focusing on the governance mindset. But that was loud and clear at our August retreat, that we needed to focus on our individual behaviors, which is why we set up this system, which is why we're using this system to evaluate, and now we're gonna continue to grow.
I don't, it just tells you what you shouldn't be doing and gives you what you should be doing, and we're focusing on what we shouldn't be doing. That's what you just said.
You don't think we should be behaving well at the board table?
I think we should focus on the business of the board. I don't think we're.
I agree with you completely.
And I don't think we're behaving that bad. I don't think we're badly.
I don't think most of us are.
And again, what am I supposed to do with that statement, Mike?
I think we must have a retreat, and have a pizza together, and then talk in a retreat session, feature discussion about the board.
Right. I think that the point tonight was to kind of take a touchstone of, where we are. We set up in August that we were going to use this system. We've used it. Here's some of the feedback we've gotten. Now to repeat that we're going to continue using this system, and we have that date set in March. I think you said it's the 4th. I believe the 4th is right.
I think it's the 4th.
But it is that night in March that we will have a retreat where we can, not a board meeting, but a retreat where we can talk about things and continue to evaluate this behavior. And that, Linda, if you want to, in your reflection on our sheets, if you want to focus on these things, we could all kind of try to focus on these negative versus positive governance drivers. That's great, but it doesn't work if we don't use the system.
Angie, please.
I would just say that, there are things on these sheets that apply to me, and so self-reflection is never, it's not always a comfortable or easy thing, but for the sake of the board and for the sake of myself as a person, I'm going to reflect on the things that are addressed to me, either in name or I can intuit that they're addressed to me, and I'm going to try and do better, because I'm not perfect, and so I can improve how I choose to engage, and I can also try to make my observations about the board in general focused on what is going to move the board as a whole forward. And that's really the goal of this, so that we as a board can be cohesive, to be a support to the district that is doing great things, as Moxie said. And with that, I am going to excuse myself.
Please, Mary.
And I think at the end of the day, people can understand that we might not all agree on something, and that's okay. But sometimes it feels uncomfortable to disagree. So hopefully we can build in I hear what you're saying. You're coming from a place of studiousness and having looked at this, and you're just coming to a different conclusion than I am. And I don't know what to do with this.
In what way does it feel uncomfortable?
Well, I think because I don't have such a financial background, that some of this stuff probably isn't in my wheelhouse. And even though I feel like I'm making informed and appropriate decisions, sometimes it feels like I'm not appreciated in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I have several issues with some of the things that have gone on recently at the board table, and in some communications off of it. But I think the governance mindset is a really good place to start. we're in charge of governing the school district. We are not in charge of administration. We have an administration team that is fabulous, and we ask them for facts, and they give them to us. We do not. We are not in charge of. We are not in charge of administering that. That is their job. Our job is to govern, to create policies, and we, and especially you, Linda, overstep frequently. And
Can you be specific?
yes, I'll be specific. There is, recently there's been communication about the healthcare, and you were asking about healthcare, insurance, and you were asking for reports from, in order to do, I don't know what, but nothing that the board is in charge of doing.
Can I respond to that?
And you kept, and the board didn't ask for reports. You kept asking, and that's individual board behavior, not a governance mindset. Our job is to govern and create policies, and you consistently do things outside of the bounds of what we are responsible for.
Is our job also to review reports that are brought to us on the behalf of the public? That's why they're reporting to us, so that we can share and ask questions on what's going on. We still review reports and information they provide. Is that part of a governance mindset?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So when they report to us on insurance initiatives, new initiatives, which the Gardner app was, and that report was, at the board table, we were told that report existed, that they got a report, and we just asked that they share it with us. I didn't make you read the report. I'm not making anybody else here read it, but I have an interest in what happened with that particular initiative. The report, I was told, is they're not creating new information. They have the report. Please share it. I'm not asking the board to discuss it. I'm not asking you to read it. I have an interest in that. I would read it myself, and that would probably be some background information that might come up when they bring the next report.
To what
So, and
end?
that is outside, that is so egregious of my role as a board member to be asking for something that's already there.
It's outside our purview.
It's part of the review of the initiative that was put in place. It's a review. How did it go? What happened? There were some goals in mind. We had that presentation of what that was supposed to do. I just want to take a look at it.
And we'll have that presentation in
I
March
wanted
or
to see
April.
the report. That's all I wanted to
Can
do.
you stop interrupting people, please? Please.
When it's an agenda item, we can discuss it.
I thought we were having a conversation, sorry.
Consistently, people talk. They're in the middle of their sentence, and you interrupt them because you don't like what they're saying. I actually have no idea why you do it, but you do it frequently. Can you please stop it?
Sure.
Thank you.
This is silly. This is silly.
Are we in agreement that we will continue to do our self-reflection so that we have more information and more data to talk about at our March retreat?
Yes, I do. I would agree to that.
Next week.
Yep.
Yes, sure. Yeah, yeah, I'll do it.
I think that was our goal here, was to.
To get the boxes filled in. Yeah, you can do that.
Well, so
Can I-
that we have data to talk about.
Yeah. And it's not gonna be like the next day, okay? And why are we doing it handwritten? Why does somebody have to
You're
retype
welcome to
this?
type it up.
Why are we doing?
I think you've been told more than once that you can submit it via email to Darlene the next day. If you can't do it, as everyone else is at the table right after the meeting, we have already said, yes, you can email it the next day. If that's what you would like
Can
to do.
it be a Word document? I did actually.
This is a
have
Google
little-
document that you could fill in.
Google? I don't think I ever got it back from you. No, it was always a PDF or some other. Yeah, it's not.
The reason it's not filled out is because it's not a fillable form. We can make a Google fillable form.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
we can
making
make it a
work for
Google
her.
Doc.
It's making it work for her. She's got to.
She's fine. I think
Retype
this
it.
is the process the board agreed to. If you want to type it up in an email and send it to Darlene, she can copy and paste it into the document she's putting it in. So if you prefer to just email it, you know the format, it's pretty straightforward. It's plus delta. Does that work for you, Darlene? I don't want to speak for you. Yes. Just email it the next day then?
Sure.
Great.
I guess when I look at these comments, they're directed at people, really. That's so behavior focused and not a mindset, kind of. Can we take the word behavior off and make it something else?
Well, this is the form that we decided on as a board.
Well, we're all here as a board. Can we decide to change it?
No, I don't want to change it. Does anybody else?
Now, can I say, when you say that, I don't want to change it. Just say that as the board president, I don't want to change it. Does anybody else want to change it? Shouldn't you be asking first before you state what you want to do? Shouldn't you be checking with the board before you say, I don't want to do it? Anybody else?
Linda, I think when we met in August and had discussions about this, it
I
was
asked Mike.
the behaviors that we were concerned with. And that's why it says behaviors. And it says behaviors or actions. I don't know what else. This is what we agreed on in August to work on through this year.
And now we're halfway through, looked at what we got. Why can't we make changes midway through?
You want to add mindset to it? Behaviors, actions, or mindsets?
I think we must move to the next agenda item of treasurer's report is available in board docs and continue the discussion in the board retreat, which will be, I think, more can have open discussion in a board retreat rather than in a board meeting. Let's have it in a board retreat and go from there. So if everybody agrees, if we like the kind of the next agenda item was treasurer's report, if everybody agrees.
Well,
Does everybody agree?
I want to address what Linda just said. Do you want to add mindsets to our behaviors, actions, and mindsets? Because I'm sure that we could change that for the next meeting if you want this to say behaviors, actions, mindsets. In the same way in this other one, it says behaviors, actions that serve the board well. Do we want to add mindsets? Do you object to that?
Nope. I
Mary,
don't object.
Mike?
Please.
Okay. Darlene, are we able to make that change on the form for our next meeting? Adding just the word mindsets to that? Okay, then let's move on.
I didn't quite understand, Moxie, what you were suggesting. Are you saying we should just end this discussion and save it for the retreat? Is that what?
So I think to have a more open discussion, we must do a retreat rather than a board meeting where we are talking about back and forth. I think a retreat is a more appropriate time and place rather than
this.
So let's kind of, if everybody agrees, let's kind of, have a retreat. Darlene will order the pizza for us and we can have a retreat.
All right, so we've come up with, we think we have a goal to set to accomplish by that March 4th retreat?
The goal is to continue using our sheets and evaluate our behaviors, mindsets and actions.
Thank you. All right. We will move on. The treasurer's report is available in the board docs library. Future agenda items. Ben Franklin School presentation. Friends of Franklin, open enrollment seats 26, 27. Review and discussion of WASB, proposed resolutions. 25, 26 preliminary budget at a glance. Financial audit report, board policies, property and technology, 7,000s in operations, 8,000s, district administrator self-evaluation of goals, mid-year discussion of administrative contracts, closed session, and Franklin High School presentation, athletics and activities report, health clinic report, board policies, final approval of new policy manual effective July 1st, 2026.
So is this the next 2 meetings, or how far out is this?
It's always 2 meetings out.
2 meetings out. So when will we have the financial audit? Would that be?
That will be in January on the 14th.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Cromie, was there something about the audit report? Is
Yep.
it usually
So-
this month?
Yeah, so usually we would have it by now. There's a new GASB update regarding federal government audits. So they're waiting for that. It's been pushed back because of the federal government shutdown, so they're waiting for that. But it won't have any substantial change in our audit. It's simply how they have to report their particular grant piece. So until we have that, we're waiting for that audit. But it's been complete for quite some time.
Thank you. So there's the delay is not on us. It's on
Correct.
something that we're waiting for. Thank you. Does that answer your question, Linda, about the audit?
I was going to ask if, I thought it typically was in December. I wasn't going to make a point of it, but thank you for bringing it up, and now I know why.
And I'm looking for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion was made by Mrs. Sapersky, seconded by Mrs. Witkowski. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We are adjourned at 8:11.